poppin', y'all? Welcome back to the channel. Your boy Maven put out another video. Let's see what you're talking about. Answering wrestling questions from Reddit. Let's see what's good.
Maven here. I'm a former WWE wrestler, and today we're going to answer some questions from Reddit. Let's get into it.
Maven
Question: why does WWE hate when stars get over on their own? I remember being in developmental territory, and I was in HWA, but we had OVW right down the road. This was during the time of Jim Cornette running OVW. You know, anybody that knows the business knows Cornette is a true living legend. Dave Batista, who everyone knows went on to be a mega superstar, was in OVW at the time, and the gimmick that I'm assuming Cornette bestowed upon him was that of Leviathan. And they shot vignettes of Dave coming out of the lake, of the river and everything. He had contacts in, and he just looked like something you'd never seen before. But the moment they put him up on WWE television, that gimmick was dead. It was gone. And I could never understand that. Well, I do know one thing. I know the WWE likes to own the rights of gimmicks, and it's my belief, could be wrong, but I also think they like having the satisfaction knowing that they built a star. They built a gimmick, knowing, hey, Batista's what he is because of our foresight, because of we thought he should be, not because of what Jim Cornette or anyone else thinks. Why does WWE?
I hate the fact that they just can't say the name, or even Vince McMahon. You just can't say that. Guys, he didn't freaking kill nobody, right? He didn't R-word anybody. My God, he just cheated on his wife or whatever. Relax, and forgot to make the payment. But y'all can say that it's a Vince-ism. That's what it was called a couple years ago before all of this hoopla came out. They're called Vince-isms, you know what I mean? And he has tons of them, and this is one of the things. You cannot get over by yourself because he has to have that satisfaction. It probably helps him sleep at night.
Or anyone for that matter, care about title reign records when the whole thing is scripted to begin with? It's a good question. In my opinion, there is a misbelief that the person that's holding the belt is the most important person in the company. So when Roman Reigns has the title for umpteen, 100 days, he's the person at the top of your company. Here's why that's a disbelief, and here's why I don't believe that. The person below the title holder is usually who the company sees as their main draw, their main money maker. So it's the person chasing Roman. That's the person they're banking all their hopes and dreams on. That's all the eggs they're putting in a basket. If you're at home and you're hearing Roman Reigns has the title and lost it to Cody, okay, that sounds like something. But Roman Reigns has the title for a record length, then you at home are thinking, wow, okay, now Cody's done a little bit more. Next question: why does WWE do the thing after the interviews? I'm gonna read verbatim the follow-up, what he is saying the thing is. The thing where the superstar is like, I've said everything I need to, turns around, walks away, but then they pan the camera to the interviewer and stay there for a few seconds before cutting back to the ring. Anytime you can add a little bit of extra oomph on anything, anytime you can make something appear to be more important, and a camera panning back to an interviewer holding a mic, maybe looking shocked, dazed, maybe looking mad, almost them in a way telling you how you should feel. I think the pan back to the interviewer, I think that's also allowing you, the fans, that time to digest. Why does WWE act like it was never called WWF? I was one that was there during the name change, and personally, I didn't think it was gonna be a death nail to the company, but I thought it was gonna be a lot A lot harder to unlearn WWF as opposed to
years.
WWE, but I was
me years,
100% wrong. I also know that the
I still
fact
call it
that the
WWF.
WWF logo is owned by World Wildlife Fund, there's even a financial burden against using that, those three letters. So why would you? I don't know. I see no upside to bringing up WWF,
Years,
but that's my opinion. Why they don't use it anymore. Is every single detail of WWE matches scripted or no? No. Depends on who is in the ring, though. Some people want to have as many details called as possible. They might want to know, I'm going to throw 3 punches. On the third one, you duck, hit the ropes, I'll turn, hit me with a flying forearm as I come up, kick me as I bend over, you hit the ropes, throw that leg drop down, I go down, go for a cover, 1, 2, kick out, come over, boom, I kick you in the stomach, cut you off. Now that's wanting to have every single detail called. Here's the downside and drawback to that. What if the fans aren't, what if they're not with it? What if I throw those 2 punches and the person's supposed to duck on the third one, but the fans are cheering, loving it? Well, I want to have the ability to say, on the second punch, tell my opponent, take more, boom, hit him back, keep punching him till I get him back into the corner. He can cut me off another way. That's how I learned when I got actually out of WWE, to just listen to the fans. And if you're doing something and they're not feeling it, do something else. A lot of WWE matches are scripted on television. Why, might you ask? Well, on TV, it's a bit different because you have a certain time that you have to hit. And a 6-minute match means 6 minutes. They're gonna go to commercial. They're gonna play that ad for whatever. Is every detail scripted? My answer, no, not every. But more is scripted than I or a lot of guys from my generation would like. Is it easy for WWE wrestlers to get free food at restaurants while traveling? Oh, good question. It's hit or miss. It depends who you are. I don't want to say name recognition value, but that does help. Guys that were mid-carders like I was, man, it's hit or miss. Sometimes we go places and people would recognize us and want to comp our meals. I never went into any place expecting it. I won't say who, but when I was on the road, me and Randy we jumped in a car with someone and we went to a restaurant and they didn't have tables to actually seat us at the moment, and this person told the hostess, I'm so and so. Me and Randy just looked at each other like, what the fuck? Like, we just couldn't believe, because that just wasn't our style. And I don't want to say it was embarrassing, but it was embarrassing. If something was offered, hell, I'd take it. That's for damn sure. Still do. Doesn't happen though that often. Wish it did. What are the harsh realities of being a WWE wrestler? And great question. I actually did a video, consequences of being a WWE wrestler. Highly, highly encourage you to go watch it. I was up all night, with back and leg pain. My leg would not stop cramping. I mean, would I get those just being old? Without wrestling and just playing sports my whole life? Maybe. I know that last week I had to get 2 gigantic needles, one in my shoulder, one in my lower back. I know that comes from wrestling. So physical limitations and physical ailments are an obvious harsh reality of being a WWE wrestler, but one that you might not think of when people expect stuff from you and like you feel like a dick if you can't say yes. I get 20 requests for podcasts every day. Would I love it if I could sit at home and get paid to do podcasts all day? Absolutely. Sit in my underwear and do it? Yeah, sure, why not? But unfortunately, I can't do that. Unfortunately, I have responsibilities. And it just sucks. I know, cry me a river. Yeah, Maven, it sure must suck to be you, doesn't it? I literally feel like the guy complaining that my shoes don't fit and there's a guy beside me with no feet. Why do they exaggerate the weight of some wrestlers? Good question. When I was there, and I don't know if everyone didn't do this. Obviously, the women didn't, but a lot of guys would do the 220 rule, 2 inches, 20 pounds. I know I exaggerated. I never exaggerated my height. I'm 6'2". If I tell people I'm 6'4", they're gonna be like, no, you're not. And hell, I've stood beside people that are 6'2" and kind of looked up at them. And then that's when I tell them, nah, you're 6'3", because I want to be 6'2". I know I exaggerated my weight for years. I always said I weighed probably a little bit more than I actually did. When I first got into WWE, I think I weighed around 205, but they still billed me 220. It's easier to stand in the ring against a guy who weighs 285 and I weigh 240. It just sounds better. If I get in the ring and, Undertaker, who was 300 pounds, and Maven, 195, you're like, man, what? No. This isn't a wrestling match. This is assault. How do male wrestlers deal with boners in the ring? When you're out there performing, competing, and you could have the divas, the hottest divas, wearing the sexiest costumes across from you, and they could be doing stuff that made Vince do the over animated gulp. And
Vinnie Mac.
That's the like anything
Vinnie
arousal
Mac, man.
in your mind while you're performing. It's so far removed. Yeah, we're doing a job. Backstage, I've never heard one wrestler come back and be like, man, I couldn't take that flat back because my damn dick was hard. Man, it's just not gonna happen, never. Why do wrestlers clap their hands sometimes before a move? Just to get the crowd excited, get the crowd amped, get them off their feet, get them off their phone, get them into the action. Once again, we're out there the whole time. All we're trying to do is elicit a reaction from you. And sometimes, a simple clap they can go from this to, hell, all right, I'll clap with you. And then it might make them pay attention a little bit more. Clapping their hands before a move might be a timing thing. It could help. Maybe they're getting ready to do something and they need a specific, beat or a specific timing on something. If they go to try a move and it works, and maybe beforehand they clapped twice and that helped them get the timing before going, well, the next night, why would they try something different? Why do wrestlers tape up their fingers, wrists, or fists? I always taped my wrists simply because from my days playing baseball, I always had wrists issues, and I would tape my wrists before every single game just to give me that stability. Well, once I transitioned into the ring, jumping, doing a drop kick, landing, doing anything where I had to land, and, take a face bump and post myself as I was going down, taped wrists just helped me. Plus, I think it's just a cleaner look. I look back at me in my early career. I believe the match I had where I won the hardcore title against The Undertaker, I don't think I had my wrist taped.
Oh, it's disgusting.
And it just doesn't look right. It looks to me, it just looks weird. Why they tape their fingers, it could be a lot of guys, maybe they might be some guys would hide gigs in their finger tapes. But for the most part, it's a stability. Maybe they have a finger that they've hurt. Maybe, like I said, I've broken every fingers on my hands beside my thumbs. And a lot of times I would just have to tape them together just for stability. If a wrestler's taping their fist, that tells me that a part of their gimmick is punching and throwing punches. So I would say it's some performative, some gimmick related, and a lot of it just mostly for just the overall look and appeal. Next question. Why do wrestlers need to ask permission from other wrestlers if using their finishing moves? A finishing move, that's like somebody's significant other. That's someone's spouse. You gonna go to your buddy's house and be like, hey, where's Jenny at? Yeah, get her down here. We got our reservations at Morton's in 20 minutes. If you want to get heat in a wrestling locker room, yeah, go out and use somebody's finishing move. You will get lambasted backstage.
Funny,
even once someone retires, once someone leaves, it's still common courtesy, common practice to just ask, can I use this move? Hell, maybe I should have stole one though. Maybe I would have lasted longer. God, yeah, man. Maybe I should have just went out there and told her, I'm doing the rock bottom. Damn it, Rock's got a problem with it. He knows where to find me. Yeah, that wouldn't happen. Where do wrestlers get their gear from, and do they get to decide on their outfit? We actually had a gear guy on staff. He would make a lot of the guys' gears. Sometimes, people would need a rush job. I know when I fought The Undertaker for the hardcore title, at that point, I still did not have wrestling trunks. So they made me a pair of immediate trunks. And if you go back and watch during that match, I'm pulling them down the entire time. They're almost like a cheap pair of boxer shorts that ride up on you. The same guy that would make those trunks for me would go on to make my next pair of black trunks. Then they were a little bit better fitting, had a better graphic on them.
I know there's
had the sheen
City,
and they were a better
St. Louis,
material.
Chicago,
Did I have to pay for them? And I know that wasn't part of the question, but yes, I did. Every pair of trunks, these guys are there, but they're there working. A pair of trunks might cost me, I believe it was like $130, but well worth the money. And did I have a say in it? To an extent, I did. Obviously, if I wanted to, put on my trunks 2 big middle fingers sticking up at the crowd, the office would have said, "Nah, you're not getting away with that." But when I went to them and said, "Hey, I'd like them in this, and this color," they didn't have any problem with that.
They're like,
just go for it. When I told them that I wanted my logo on the backside and then just a big gigantic M right over my crotch, they had no problem with that. Your top level guys, they get a little bit more say. But once you have apparel that they can turn into merchandise, and merchandise we all know means dollars, then the office is going to step in a little bit more, just because there's a financial element to it. And they know that, well, if we do this, if we take this character this way, we can make money off of it. Before you get to the WWE, you need to find people who will make gear for you. I was fortunate enough to become friends early in my career with Easy Money. And Easy Money, after his stint in WCW, was in developmental with me at HWA in Cincinnati. Well, Easy made a lot of his money and still does to this day, making wrestling gear. Wrestling gear,
genius.
It can make or break a character. Good gear, something that the fans want to get behind, it can be that little added touch that helps a wrestler go straight to the top. Why do so many wrestlers choose to live in Florida? When you get into the world of professional wrestling, so much of your life immediately becomes travel. The 2 days you're at home, you want to have a good home base to go to. You want to A, have good weather, and B, have some place that's just not a chore getting to. You don't want to have to take 5 flights just to get home, or 5 flights just to leave where you live. Florida provides both. And Florida is just a good retirement destination. Obvious financial benefits. I know when I moved to Florida, it was crazy, because I moved to Tampa, and then all of a sudden I was around 5 or 6 of the boys. And I know a lot of you might be thinking that guys choose to live in Florida because NXT in the developmental territory is there.
But before that, though,
it might be a reason some guys are moving there now. But even before that, even before developmental was a thing, wrestlers were still flocking to Florida. It's just it's hard to beat having, sunny days. It's really hard to beat. How often, when, and where do wrestlers practice moves? Once you get to the WWE and you're a traveling wrestler, obviously, the one way to continue your rise is expanding your move set, your arsenal of what you can do in the ring. There's no better feeling than performing a move that the crowd's never seen and just hearing that, ooh. I know when I did the backstabber for the first time, that was the exact reaction I got. And then to top that, an even better reaction is when you go back through Gorilla and you go down the steps and the boys are like, "Ooh, yeah, where'd you pick that up?" I liked it. That's the best feeling in the world. One thing we do get to do is get in the ring before shows, and that's the perfect place to practice, to get your feel. I know in an earlier question, somebody asked about clapping, get your timing down. And they might have a crash pad that they pull out if you're doing a high risk move and you just want to get the rotations down, or you just want to figure out how you're going to land. So you can go over and practice moves before the show, every show, if you want to, as long as you early enough. How do wrestlers prepare for matches? Some guys like to prepare for matches by going over and getting the person they're going to work with and going through and kind of walking through all the moves. Other guys want no part of that. I know Booker T was notorious for, before he would go out there, he'd be backstage jumping rope fiercely. And I'm talking about a full-on like boxer would jump rope and he's breaking a sweat. When I asked him, "Man, what are you doing?" And he would tell me, "I'm blowing myself up. I'm getting that first one out of the way, so when I go out there, I'm already into my second wind." And once you get into that second wind, you can wrestle a lot longer without blowing yourself up. Other guys would try not to do, and they would save as much of their energy until they were out there. The way I would prepare was kind of a cross between how Booker would do it and how just other guys would save their energy. I like to get a good sweat going before I went up to Gorilla. Obviously stretch, loosen myself up as much as possible. And I wouldn't do the jumping of the rope, but I would do free squats, the Hindu squats. And I always found that if I did about 50 Hindu squats in a row, then that would elevate my heart rate and that would get a good sweat going. And then I could immediately go up and I would have, I would be almost right in the, right at the tail end of just getting that heart rate elevated to the place I wanted to be. How often do wrestlers get to go home while working a touring schedule? Again, that depends on who the wrestler is. A normal schedule for me would be Friday morning, take the first flight out. It could be a 6 a.m. flight, which meant I was getting to the airport by 5, which meant I was leaving my house by 4:15. And then we would have house shows, untelevised events, Friday, Saturday, and Sunday. Now, I wasn't going home for any of these shows. I was on the road traveling, staying in new hotels, renting new cars, maybe even taking more flights to get to the next town. Monday, we would have our live show if we didn't have a pay-per-view on Sunday. And then Tuesdays, typically, first flight out, they would fly us back. So Tuesdays, around midday, Tuesdays, Wednesdays, and Thursdays, I would have home, I would be back at home. It's weird because the whole idea is you want to be popular, you want to be a top guy, and top guys, they don't get to go home much. I know John Cena's schedule for years was insane. It was crazy. I know he would probably go months without going home, or if he did go home, maybe go home for a day or two. All depends. However, I'd go back and do every single bit of it again. I absolutely loved it. Why do wrestlers hook the leg when they pin each other? Good question. It gives the illusion that you're in a real fight even more. The great wrestlers were phenomenal at just adding to the to the struggle. Orton was great at this. Orton would grab the leg and then almost lean his entire back on someone, looking like he's putting pressure down to keep someone's shoulders pinned to that mat, 1, 2, 3, because like Al Snow says, the whole point of a wrestling match is to pin someone. So the more that you look like you're in a struggle, the more that you look like you're fighting to get this person to keep that person's shoulders down, the more the people at home believe. How much money are non-major company wrestlers making? When I left the WWE in 2005, I was at a peak level of earning potential for the indies, for the independents. And if you ever hear someone say the indies, they mean independent wrestling promotions, promotions that are not backed by a big company, an AEW, a TNA, a WWE. I know as soon as people leave the WWE, that's when their potential is at its highest. Me personally, I could ask for as much as $1,000 to $2,000 for a match the moment I left. But that's because I still had name value. I had name recognition. As more days click off the calendar that remove you from being on WWE television, your name value goes down the shitter. The less money you can make over time. Before the YouTube channel started, I mean, my name value, my name recognition might have been worth maybe around $300 to $500. It depends on the show, depends on also who is running the show and how good of a booker they are. How do wrestlers' naming work across organizations? Some wrestlers are able to use the same name everywhere, while others are not. It all depends on what the WWE owns as far as what they have trademarked. I know when I was wrestling under Maven, which happens to be my real God-given Christian birthright name. So they couldn't hold on to that name and keep me from using it. Hell, it's my real name. But what they could do is make sure that I had to add my last name, Maven Huffman, if I wanted to use it to make money for myself. If it's a small event, small show, they're not gonna care. You know, if somebody's throwing up flyers on the Tilt-A-Whirl at the local carnival with my name on it, that's not enough for the WWE legal to even get out of bed for. But I know when I got my job for the Home Shopping Network, they had to use my last name. They couldn't just put Maven, and it was a legal reason. They want to have full and complete ownership if something takes off, if someone becomes a superstar. John Cena is a superstar, but his real name is John Cena, so it's something that they can't necessarily trademark or keep John from using. The Rock, however, that's not Dwayne's real name. He is Dwayne Johnson. That's why once he developed and got his Hollywood career to the level that it is, he started going by Dwayne "The Rock" Johnson, because he wanted to have ownership of all that Dwayne Johnson did, not just what The Rock was out there doing. An example of someone who was able to use and carry over a name from company to company would be CM Punk. CM Punk had the name going into WWE. He owned the name. Therefore, he was able to carry the name and the trademark over to AEW. So it's almost like you gotta have an immense belief in yourself. You almost have to gamble on yourself in a way, and you just have to make a name that they can't touch. Do wrestlers go by their real names backstage, or do they adopt their gimmick names? This is probably one of the questions since we started the channel almost a year ago that we've gotten the most. I know Batista, for instance. I always knew him as Dave. I always called him Dave backstage, and if I see him to this day, I'm not to this Dave. If I see him to this day, if I see him to this day, I'm not going to yell, "Hey, Batista!" No, I'm going to yell, "Hey, Dave! Yeah, what's up, buddy?" Test was the same way. Test actually used to correct people when they would call him Test. He would always stop them and be like, "No, it's Andrew. It's Andrew." And it's one of the things that just endeared me to him. Other guys, man, I like Taker is in my phone as Taker. Some guys are their gimmick names. Some guys, that's their, that's just how they prefer to be addressed. It was the one reason that going into wrestling, I hated Maven growing up. I hated it. And it was because no one could get it right. I got called Maven, Melvin. A game in high school, I got called Megan by the PA announcer. Then once I got to the WWE, and Maven actually became, a name that worked there. Yeah,
Trust me, I know,
I'm
guys.
okay with it. When I was growing up, the name that I always wanted to wrestle under was Bishop. I don't know why, but I just always thought Bishop. That'd be a good wrestling name.
Bishop.
But I ended up naming my dog Bishop. There was a case one time when we were on the road.
Bishop.
Randy, myself, and Jindrak found ourselves at a restaurant with Hunter and Rick. And on the way to the restaurant to kind of rib him a little bit, Jindrak came up with the idea, let's see who can call Hunter Paul the most at dinner. And I might have gotten 2 out, and the 2 I did were not comfortable. It just didn't roll off the tongue. Jindrak did it the entire dinner, and Jindrak found a reason to talk to him. Paul, hey Paul, you're right, Paul. Paul, what do you think of the? And inside, my gut was hurting. I wanted to explode with laughter because he did it straight faced, and he just never broke. And it was the funniest thing. And it probably annoyed Hunter to no ends. But it was just so weird to not hear of Hunter referred to as Hunter. Now, do real fights happen backstage at WWE shows?
Great video.
Well, to find out the answer, click the link.
Click here. Yo, great video. Well, of course, the homie Maven, man. Just a lot of information. His YouTube is killing it, guys. Go give him a subscribe. Yeah, man. That Bishop would have been tight, though. Oh, he should have been Maven Bishop or Bishop Maven. Damn, that kind of would have been hard, low key. Yeah, anyways. But all right, y'all. Give Maven a subscribe. Give your boy a subscribe, man. Oh, follow me on Twitch, by the way, too. Follow me on Twitch. On all platforms, Travel BK, BNAS559. Find it, y'all. I'm everywhere, man. Come on, man. Let's run those views up. Let's run those follows up, y'all.